Good evening?
Good evening.
I think it's evening, right? Yeah, it is. Thank you so much for having me. It is such a great honor to be here and share with you about what the Lord has done. I thank you, Jenny, for sharing that prayer, how many people are obedient to the Lord in order for me to come here. It sounds like it's kind of putting me up there, but really it's I'm a servant of the Lord. I go wherever He leads me. And so one of the prayers, I just want to mention this, that one of the prayers that I pray every time before I go to anywhere to speak is that if the Lord's presence isn't with me, not to send me. Because I'm not here to tell you about my name, but I'm here to tell you about the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, who came and died for each and every one of us. And if His presence isn't with me, not to send me at all. So that's my heart in all of it. And just wanted to make sure that we understand that as I'm just here to glorify God's name. I wouldn't be here without Him being with me. But before I start telling the whole story of how I ended up in a place where I received the shoebox, I kind of want to throw it out there that if you think, who thinks I have an accent? It's okay. I have a Rwandan accent, and for the last 10 years, I lived in a place called Minnesota. Oh yeah, don't you know? I have a Minnesota accent, which will always be with me, and I'm proud I have it. And then, as of 6 months, almost a year ago, I moved to Boone, North Carolina, to do an internship with Operation Christmas Child. And guess what? I have a Southern accent now. So I don't know what accent I have anymore, and I'm always confused. And sometimes I speak so fast, and sometimes words come out of me, and by the end they get to you, they're in a different language, or you, what did he just say? So at the end, we're going to leave some time for questions, so be thinking of those questions, and don't feel shy to ask a question, because I love questions, and I love to answer them at the best that I can. Many of you have heard about the Rwandan genocide, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of the history of why the genocide happened, then where I was during that, and how I ended up in an orphanage, and how I received that box, and how I got to know the Lord and what the Lord really did in my life. How many of you have gotten an opportunity to see the movie Hotel Rwanda by any chance? Yeah, many of you. The movie shows the horror of that took place. If you've seen the movie, think about it. 10 times worse or more than that movie. To go back, in the 1800s, we were colonized, the Rwandan people were colonized by Belgians and the Germans. And when they were colonized by the Belgians, they decided to divide the people of Rwanda in 3 tribes: the Hutus and the Tutsis and the Twa. But since the Tutsis were considered to own to have the government, the monarchy, the colonies didn't like the fact that the Tutsis were now in power because of the monarchy. So they wanted to create tensions between 2 of the tribes, the Hutus and the Tutsis. They would figure out what tribe you were by measuring the length of your nose. And they said if you're very tall and you're very slim, that means you're a Tutsi. And if you're very short and muscular built, kind of like a football player, that means you are a what? A Hutu. So things they made up, things they just came up and to divide the people of Rwanda. So that separation, in 1959, a lot of Tutsis were fed up from being tortured by the colonialism and by the Hutus. So they fled to Uganda. That included our president today. He was a young boy. So those who went to Uganda and fled there, they formed an army, and they called themselves the Rwandan Patriotic Front. Then in 1990, no, before that, in 1962, we got our independence, which the colonies left, and they left the power. The first president was a Hutu president. So now we had a Hutu president, the Hutus were on power, and they wanted to kill all the Tutsis, to torture them, saying that they had a lot of land. Eventually, they were going to wipe away they were going to take the country over. So the Hutus continued to torture and torture the Tutsis, and then in 1990, the people who had fled to Uganda in 1959 tried to come back and stop the government from torturing the Tutsis. One of their generals was killed, and so they retreated. But then, the big one you know is 1994. The UN had come in before that to try to bring reconciliation, to bring peace among the two tribes, among the two people. And the president of Rwanda was in Arusha, Tanzania at that time, with the rebels, with the Tutsi rebels, signing a peace agreement overseen by the UN. After that peace accord was signed, the president of Rwanda went back to Rwanda, and on his way back, as his plane was about to touch the ground, his plane was shot. And that was April 6, 1994, the night of April 6, 1994. So that morning, I would hear noises going off. At this time, I lived with my grandmother because my mom had died when I was very young. I was about 3 or 4 years old when my biological mom died, and I never knew my dad. So my grandmother was pretty much my mom. She raised me and I knew her. I called her mom. But it got that morning on the April 7th, we could hear noises going off and on, and we wondered what it was. And our neighbor came to us out of breath, and she said, hey, do not go anywhere today because the president was killed last night. And if you go anywhere, they're going to kill you. And there's roadblocks everywhere, and all the Hutus have started killing the Tutsis. My grandmother started to panic really bad. She did not know if she could be able to survive that because she had survived the 1959 ordeal. So she told us to go into hiding. We hid in our coffee plantation. In the afternoon, we came back to the house, and that's when we had noises by our house, and it happened to be militias. They came and they threw rocks at our house. They broke the door of the house, and they yelled at us to go outside and lie down. And all of us, so at this time was my grandmother, me and my brother and sister. We had 2 uncles living in that house too, but at that moment they were not at home. So we went outside, we did what they wanted, and they told us to go inside the house, kids, and then that's when they took my grandmother's life. They came into the house after they did that, took all the food that we had saved, and they left. And before they would leave the house, they threatened my sister, and they raised machetes on my sister's head. And they said, what's his name? What's his name? And they were asking a name of one of the killers. And luckily she knew the name because these were not strangers. They were our neighbors who we knew by name, who we hang out with, and then we went to school with their children. It's just that the brutality that the people of Rwanda at that time, if you're Hutu, you are brainwashed to the point where a neighbor could kill a neighbor. So now, the tactics of the genocide was that they wanted to kill all the young generation, all the children, so that no more Tutsis are raised up, and they want to kill the person who provided for the family, both financially and physically. One of my uncles who lived with us was known to be the person to do that, and so they were looking for him. It wasn't too long that 100 men came to the house. They searched all over the house. Probably our house was so small, it was probably the size of this, just this whole row, just really, really small. And so 100 men came and went into the house, and they searched all over, and they would ask us where he was. We would tell them we didn't know, and we were scared because if they would have found him, they would have killed all of us. But by the grace of God, they didn't find him because he had put himself on the springs of the bed. And so when they were spearing under the bed, they never got to him. So he was kind of dangling on the up by the springs. So they left. And 3 days later, 3 men with their guns came to the house. They yelled at us, "He's under the bed. Let him get out. And if he doesn't come out, we're going to destroy the house." As they're about to open the grenade to throw into the house, he yelled out, and those are the last words he said, "Please, do not bomb the house. My children need a place to live." So he came outside. They asked for his identity card. And at the age of 18 and older, you had to have this ID. And this ID said what tribe you were. And if you are Tutsi, of course, no question. If you are Tutsi, if it says you are Tutsi, you are killed. If you didn't have it, you are killed. Because that means you are lying, in their case. And so that's when they also took his life in front of us. Now, as we were about to ask about the watch he was wearing so we can remember him, they pointed guns at us, and we kept quiet, and they left. And we continued to live in that house with the other uncle who would go and buy food, get food for us, and he would come. But little did we know that the following week, he would bribe the militias for the following week. And he would stop them on the way and would buy them beer. And when he had no money left, he came to all of us, to ask me and my brother and sister, and said, "I don't care where you go. You can go to your aunt's house in the city, but if you stay here any longer, they're going to come and kill you, and I'm not going to be able to do anything." So we walked. It's about an hour and a half walk. We walked, and while we were walking, it was so tough because these debris are coming, passing all over us. We were hearing things blow up nearby us, and there's a point where we came to roadblocks, and this guy with his weapon came to us and said, "Hey, kids, come here." He has it. A guy with a weapon, with a gun, calls you and says, "Turn around." And from that time, we just lost it. We started bawling and we started crying, just our hearts out. And he stared at us for a long time, and he left. But actually, one of the details, the brutality, one of the details is that I really don't share that much of this because I just even learned some memories in there, even on that walk, that my sister just told me not too long ago, that on that roadblock, they had just took someone's life, and they made us sit in what they had just did that in the blood, and they made us drink dirty water in the streets. And that's a detail that, like specifically, that I couldn't remember, but my sister, when was telling me that story last year, that's one of the memories that she remembers on that walk. That's how terrible it was. But we eventually got to the city and we lived with our aunt, but life there wasn't any easier, and so the water supply had been destroyed and they were using oil to cook. And so several times we would go to try to find water, and every time we walked, according to what they said about the Tutsis, if you had a pointy nose, you were Tutsi. So we were trying to literally, this is what the tactics we're doing to, so that the people wouldn't know that we're Tutsis. We would blow air through our nostrils to make them bigger. So yeah, it's funny, but we did it. It saved our lives. Yeah. So we would just go, and I cannot do it now because I'm laughing. So, but we would blow, literally, we just gotta go concentrate so hard when we get to come to roadblocks. We try to be serious and just make our nostrils bigger, because if you had a bigger nostril, that means you are a Hutu, so they wouldn't kill you. And sometimes we did save our lives when we were going to fetch water. And so life continued to get worse in the city. But my aunt and her husband came up with this idea of making a living or selling local beer. And so they decided to come to buy beer, people to buy beer, and then they would make up stands in the living room, and these people would come in the house and they would buy beer and they would leave. But one day, one of the men who came to buy his beer was they were militias, managed to sneak into the backyard where our whole family was. At this time, we were about 20 family members. He started to yell, "Everyone lie down!" And he picked up his gun. He went to load, and in the process of loading, all the bullets in the gun fell to the ground. And at that moment, in panic, he's scrambling and trying to pick up his bullets. My cousin calls the dad, and the dad came and he said, "What are you trying to do with my family?" And the guy said, "Oh, I was just playing with them. I was just joking, just kind of scaring them." But he wasn't scaring us, he wasn't joking. If his weapon would have been loaded at that moment, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. So it got worse and worse. There were so many nights that we slept under the bed because of the debris. Well, the roofs, our roof was so thin, it was iron sheets. And there wasn't there was a ceiling, but it was so thin, the point where these debris would just go through, and if they landed on you, these things are supernova, they're very hard. They could literally melt your skin if they landed on you. So we just found ourselves sleeping under the bed many nights. Eventually we had to pack up everything. We ran for a period of 2 months. And wherever the night would find us, that's where we would sleep. And I remember one specific day that God saved my life. At this time, I was 6 years old. I knew who God was, but I really didn't have a relationship with Him. So everything that was happening was coincidence to me. But I remember how God saved my life in a very humorous way. I was running and I was trying to find my family. I had just separated with my family for a brief moment. And I was running and I heard noise coming from a distance. It continued to get louder and louder and louder until all of a sudden, as it got louder, I slipped and fell to the ground. And in that process of slipping and falling, I happened to go down enough that I got out of the way of the noise, which was a bullet that missed my head because I had just slipped and fell to the ground. Now, as I tried to get up, I looked and I had slipped in a cow pie. And that's what God used to save my life. Never in a million years did I ever think that I would tell people God used the cow pie to save my life. He did. So I like to carry on the humor in that if a God can use a cow pie, imagine what else He can use. So never underestimate the power of God. He can use something that many of us can think is so insignificant, even something small as a box filled with very small things. So after that moment, I got to connect with my family again, and we gave up from running. We just stopped from running, and we said, you know what, whatever, if they find us, let them find us, and we're gonna give up. And as we're sitting there, we saw these soldiers come to us. And we're like, my goodness, this is the day, we're done. So we saw that those soldiers were a part of the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, which was formed by the Tutsis who fled to Uganda way back in 1959 and had come back to try to stop the genocide. So they protected us, they took us to a camp, and we were in this camp for about altogether 3 weeks. But 2 weeks into our stay there, they said, send at least 2 people to go back into the capital city and double check if your house is still there, because a lot of the infrastructure in the country had been destroyed. So me and a relative, we get to the city, we find our house, that God had protected our belongings in such a way, in a unique way that we had left the living room set up, like a couches and a table and a coffee table, and there was a tablecloth on top, and then there was other chairs. And behind this couch was like maybe a door, a bedroom. So they lifted everything from the bedroom, lifted over that coffee table and left it by the main doors. The 2 months we read, they never bothered touching that table, that coffee table right in the middle of the living room, which had the 2 keys to the doors of the house under that tablecloth. 2 months. They lifted everything over that table, took all the beer from the house, left their bullets and all their ammunition in the house, and they never bothered touching that table. 2 months. So we got in there, we cleaned everything, we took all the junk out, then we left, we continued to send the house, and then my relative and I, we had the neighbors speak. So we went to see if they're, to celebrate with them, that, oh, they're also safe, they're alive, and let's go see who they are. So we went, we talked, and we even, I believe we had a meal with them. But my relative told me this detail in 2008 when I got to go to Rwanda for the first time in 5 years. That night, I cried and cried that I wanted to go to use the bathroom outside. And she wanted, why in the world would I want to go to use the bathroom in the middle of the night when I had the opportunity to, why would I want to go outside when there was a way I could go, inside? So she gave up after 15 minutes of me whining and took me to the bathroom. I entered the bathroom, and that moment, those neighbors who we had just celebrated with, who we had a meal with, broke into the house and broke into the room we were just in sleeping, and they started to argue. And these are the words they were saying. Where are those cockroaches? Where are those tall trees? We want to finish that family off. And they thought we were the only 2 people left in our whole family, but also little did we know that they were part of the militia groups when we had just hung out with them a couple of hours earlier. And so now at this time, she just came in the bathroom and hid for the rest of the night. And again, God using my body system to just doing, not be in that room at that moment. But at this time, everything was coincidence to me. So eventually, at that morning, we went back to the camp and we brought the whole, after another week, we brought the whole family. And it was at that time that my aunt and her husband got so sick to the point where her husband died right after the war, and she continued to get worse. And she wondered what would happen to me and my brother and my sister, because now we had nobody left. Our mom and dad had, passed on, and so she was about to pass too, and she didn't know our future. And across the street, there was an orphanage called December Memorial Center, which is a family-owned orphanage. The guy who ran it is a grandson of the guy who started it. And so the guy was good friends with my aunt, so we went to the orphanage, and when we got into the orphanage, we got a word 3 months later that your aunt also passed away. Now, at this time, I was angry, I was bitter, and I did not want to do anything with God, because the little faith that I had was my grandmother's. She went to church, I went to church. She did not go, I didn't. She was lazy, I was lazy. I was grandmother's boy, I guess that's what you call it. I just followed in her footsteps. So when she was gone, I had no one to look up to now. And so at the orphanage, we were lost in about a place that was built for about 60 people. We had about 250 people living in it. And during the war, this orphanage specifically had about 400 people who fled to the orphanage, women, children, and men. And so I get into the orphanage. Life is tough, nightmares after nightmares. But one day, I went in the yard and lined up. At the orphanage, we did what we were told as kids. So we lined up, and they said, today you're going to get something. You're going to get a gift, and this gift came from America. I mean, to us, America was so far away that we couldn't even fathom the distance between Rwanda and America. And so, as little kids, this is a really terrible analogy, but this is why we believe as young boys, that a 747 airplane cannot fit in Rwanda. And those are made in the US. And we get to have something that is made out from the US. So that's how special it was. So that was saying that, hey, a 747 cannot land in Maryland because it's so big. So our imaginations were just messed up. Yes. But we got to line up, and they handed out these gifts, and they said, you cannot open these gifts until 250 of them have been handed out. The longest 5 minutes of my life. But we got to open the gifts all together, and I remember how excited we were. Each and every kid that day had a smile on their face, seeing opening the Operation Christmas Child shoebox. Samaritans first had come in Rwanda already. They had set up a hospital. They were helping with the medical system. And so their project, Operation Christmas Child, wanted to help the kids. And our orphanage was among those orphanages that were chosen. So as we continued to look through our box and our smiles, we were sharing what we got. And I go through my box and I see these school supplies, the hygiene items, the socks and underwears, and all this cool stuff. Two of my favorite items. Oh, before I share about my favorite items, there was something in my box that was so interesting. It looked like medicine. It was Smarties. Smarties. If you've ever seen Smarties, they look like medicine. Like we don't even know if they're edible. So you know how they tie wrapped? That's exactly how medicine in Rwanda is wrapped. And if you see Smarties, they look like med pills, right? So we're afraid to eat it, so we have to take a risk. And we found out that's sweet. But two of my favorite items, one of them was a hair comb. It was so unique. I've never seen anything like it. You open it, a little pig came out, you pick your hair, and then you open it again and twist it, a little brush came out. I kept the comb for 3 years, everywhere I went. Kind of like how I carry this pen everywhere I go, in my pocket. Yeah. For 3 years. Then my favorite item. Let me see if you can guess it. Okay, I'm gonna pick on you guys and see if you can guess it, okay? I'm gonna describe it really quick and see if you can guess it. So this item was red and was white. It was really hard and it didn't smell good, it didn't feel good. I ate this item with the plastic on it for the first time because I didn't know what it was. Let me make it easier. Ready? It was in the shape of a J. Yes, you said it. Candy cane. That was my very first time eating a candy cane. And every time I say candy cane now, I remember that day when I received my shoebox and seeing and receiving that hope and peace and that hope and love that someone out there cared enough to put that gift together for me. We couldn't fathom the love that people would really care enough to put that gift for us. But a year later, after those seeds of hope and love were planted in my life, a year later a group called the African Church Choir came to my orphanage, and they chose 12 kids to go to Uganda to learn English, because at this time I didn't know English at all. The only English I knew was good morning. Yeah, and I get to Uganda, I'm learning. The African Church Choir is also a Christian organization. They were teaching us about Jesus Christ, and they were teaching us about the songs that were going to come eventually come to the US and sing. But while in Uganda, something very special happened in my life. And that's when really God took a hold of my heart and He revealed Himself to me. So while we're in Uganda, we're learning English, and I was reading the Bible in Kinyarwanda, and I was reading the Bible in the little English that I knew, and I could make cross-reference. I was hungry. I was 9 years old at this time, and I was hungry to find something, because they were teaching me about Jesus Christ. They were telling me that He came and died for me, and He loves me very much. And at this point, I really didn't understand anything about love. All I asked was, how can a God who loved His children watch while this took place in Rwanda? And why am I alive? 1 million people were killed in a matter of 3 months. Why me? Why am I alive? When I walked through it, I didn't have any point of living, and so I was searching. I said, if that's true, I need to hear that. one day I came to read these words, and these words really communicated to me why I was alive. Many of you have heard about this, but I wanted to read it to you. If I can find it. I didn't know the history of the Israelites. I didn't know the context of the Bible. All I read was that, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans of welfare and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I didn't know the context of the Bible. I didn't know who the Israelites were. I didn't know what that verse was talking about. But all I knew as a 9-year-old, God used those words to help me communicate to me that He had a plan for my life. Instead of everything being coincidence anymore, now it was a part of God's plan. So I shifted my thoughts. I went back to the point when even as far as when I was born. Because my mom died of HIV. I could have gotten that HIV when I was born, but I didn't. My brother and I, we both we didn't have AIDS because God protected us, because when our mom had both of us, she had AIDS. And so then when I lived with my grandmother, and my grandmother being killed, there wasn't any reason why I shouldn't have been killed either. When my aunt was killed, there wasn't any reason why they shouldn't have finished the whole family off. 5 teenagers arguing in front of me whether they should kill me or not. And then they would leave after 5 minutes of arguing. Then running to the city, a guy's weapon not loaded. Running and sleeping in a cow pine, falling to the ground, and a bullet missing my head. Going to an orphanage, and then receiving a gift that reminded me that he was there. And then getting an opportunity to learn a new language and go joining the African Children's Choir and being in Uganda. For the first time in my life, I saw God's presence, how He was with me the whole time I was running. And at that moment, I tell the story this way, that have you ever been at a museum to see a new debut or a new painting that are getting ready to show? Let's say this was the painting, and there's a cloth on it. There's a big cloth on it, and then before they get to reveal the painting of the hard work, the painter, when they take off that cloth and they reveal the detail, the work that person put in, the painter, and all the hard work that he did. The little details that many of us cannot see. That was my experience in coming to know the Lord, because He showed me that the plans that He had already doing in my life to save me, the little details that He used to save my life, and I couldn't ignore that anymore. And I remember how I wanted to know more about Him, and so I continued to read the Bible, and I continued to search for more, and I continued to ask questions, and I started to understand that love, and as people showed me that love, I wanted to share it with other people. I wanted to share that love with I started to have a dream. I want to be a pastor someday, so I can share that love with the people of Rwanda, because of what Jesus Christ did. But little did I know that I was on a crazy journey for the rest of my life too. So at that moment, I gave my life to Christ. But at that moment, I also was still living in bondage of bitterness and anger. Because at that moment, if I would have seen the guy who killed my uncle, the guy who killed my grandmother, I would probably have done something that I would have regretted for the rest of my life. Because I wasn't healed yet. So for the rest of the time, I continued to read the Bible, and it would tell me that we're all created in God's image, and we're loved by God. And I was still asking myself, so Lord, do you want to tell me that the guy who killed my grandmother, the guy who killed my uncle is also created in your own image, and you love them very much? How can that be? And you don't love me more because I was the victim, I was the innocent person. You don't love them less because they what they did, killing more than 30 people. But you love me the same, just as on the same level. That's something I did not want to receive for the longest time. I lived in bondage because I didn't want to receive that. And so while we were traveling, people would ask us. One day, one of the ladies came and asked me, Alex, tell me your story. Tell me your testimony of what happened during the war. That was the very first time in my life sharing what happened, sharing you what I'm telling you right now. And I remember how therapeutic that was. I felt a burden off my shoulders. And I saw this gonna help me. So I continued to share it even more. And through that, I was able to continue to heal a little bit, little by little. And I started to pray, Lord, help me share that love and share that, have that forgiveness. Since if you love them, just as much as you love me, and you want me to heal, I don't want to say it, but I want to do it. I want to do it face to face. So I started to pray for many years. For 10 years, I prayed that prayer, Lord, help me meet the people who killed my family so I can share that with them. So I can share that love, because it will heal me, but it will also be able to plant those seeds of hope and love and forgiveness in their lives. In 2008, I got to go to Rwanda, and that did not happen. The only two people who didn't show up at the meeting the government was having was the guy who killed my grandmother and the guy who killed my uncle. I was angry. I was really, really angry, because I was like, here's me trying to do something good, and God didn't answer my prayer. 10 years. I guess his timing is perfect. And so I continued to be patient a little bit more, still angry though. But last year, I traveled to Rwanda with Operation Christmas Child to deliver shoeboxes in the orphanage that I grew up in, to plant seeds of hope that were planted in my own life in the orphanage that I grew up in. And while I was there, I was like, let me just give it a shot and see if I can meet the people who killed my family. While I was in the prison and researching, I found out that the guy who killed my grandmother fled and he's nowhere to be found, and the guy who killed my uncle is still in the prison for life because another case came up against him. So a process that would have taken about 3 months, about 3 months, about 3 hours. We were able to meet with the guy, and we were able to share that message, and it was the toughest day of my life, but also the most freeing day, the most peaceful day of my life too, because I was able to have that peace to let go. I want to really mention that I shared that part of my testimony, not to show that I've done anything spectacular, but God answered a prayer that I've been praying for about 10 years. And people helped me, people showed me that love, and I wanted to share it with others. And to kind of make the connection, now that I had gone back to Rwanda, to kind of make the connection in between is that when I started to heal, when I gave my life to Christ, I came to the United States and toured for 2.5 years. Then I went back to Rwanda in 2000. In 2003, I got connected with a family that supported me to come back to the U.S. And I've been living in the U.S. since 2003. So in 2008, that's when I went back to Rwanda to meet with a guy, and it didn't happen. So last year, that's when it happened. I tell you that part of the story to really show you that to give glory to God for the healing that He has showed me, for the love that He continues to show me, but also to ask, there's a question that was asked to me that I love to pass on to you too. That question was, Alex, one of the ladies in the choir came up to me and said, Alex, what if you would sit with the person who has caused you the most pain in your life? Who would they be, and how would you react? I didn't want to think that for too long, because I knew who they were and I knew where they were. The guy who killed my uncle, the guy who killed my grandmother, and they were still in Rwanda. And so, but as I continue to see that, it also really ate me alive. That's one of the reasons I wanted to meet with them. And so I ask you that question. I also pass on that question that was asked me that helped me heal. As you sit there, think of that person who has caused you the most pain in your own life. Could be a friend, could be a neighbor, could be someone in your family who has really abandoned you. Could be that person, that husband or wife didn't treat you like you deserve to be treated. Could be that boyfriend, girlfriend. Could be anybody who has caused the most pain in your life. What if today you would leave this church, Crossroads Church today, and you had to have a dinner with them tonight, and you had to share with them a meal? Who would they be, first of all, and what would be your reaction? And your reaction will determine whether you'll be healed or not. And something, as I was saying, that something that really I did not want to receive is that God loved that person just as much as he loved me. And so that's what I told you, that person who has caused the most pain is also created in God's image, and God loves him just as much as he loves you. And I'm not saying that I've got it right. I'm just passing on along a question that was asked me that helped me, and hoping that it can also can help you in your own life. That it's never too late to let Jesus Christ come in and take hold of your heart and really free you. Live the freedom that he came to and gave us on the cross. When he stood up on that cross and he said, "It is finished." That we don't have to live in bondage anymore of bitterness and anger. And so I have to continue to remind myself, I'm not there, it's still going on. I'm still working on it even up to today, to get rid of that anger and bitterness. And it's an ongoing journey. So just want to thank you for giving the opportunity to share that. One of the verses that I helps me and really give glory to God for that is Psalms 105. That I love to read. It says, give thanks to the Lord, call upon his name, make his deeds known among the people. Sing to him, sing praise to him, tell of the wondrous works that he has done, glory in his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Seek the Lord and his strength, seek his presence continually. Remember the wondrous work that he has done, and his miracles and the judgment he uttered. As I continue to seek the Lord continually, I also give glory to him. I tell the wondrous works that he has done. I don't tell the wondrous works that I've done. I've done nothing. It's just that Jesus Christ done what he has done in my life. And so I tell to you to give glory to him, but also to make aware of what he has done in your own life. That you can also tell of the wondrous work that he has done in your own life and what he's doing. Even through the ministry of Operation Christmas Child, that you can be part of that wondrous works, the amazing work that he's doing through Operation Christmas Child. Whether it be packing a shoebox, whether it be being part of the area team here in the Southwest, is it Northwest, Southwest?
West Central.
West Central, thank you. West Central Michigan. So however God leads you to be part of his wondrous work that he's doing. So I just want to thank you for that we give glory to him for what he's done and what he's continuing to do. So I'm going to pray real quick, and then my mic is falling off now. That's okay. Let me say a prayer real quick, then we can have time for questions and Dave will take it over. So let's bow heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for who you are. We thank you for your love. We thank you for the amazing work, the wondrous work that you're doing in all of our lives today. We thank you for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, to die for us on the cross. Lord, I pray for a special blessing for each and every person in this room right now. Lord, I pray that may you break the hearts, each and every heart in this room with the things that break yours. But also, Lord, I pray for each and every person in this room. If there is anybody who is questioning you, who is doesn't really know you, Father, I pray that may your Spirit break their hearts, and may you reveal Spirit, may you reveal yourself to them today. Father, they may know that you love them very much. No matter what has happened in their past, that you are always there, protecting them from the day they were born, and you created them in your own image, and you sent your Son Jesus Christ to die for them. Father, I thank you for who you are. Thank you for the work you're doing through Operation Christmas Child, and I thank you for what you continue to do in all of our lives. May each and everything that we do and say bring glory to your name. It's in your mighty name we pray, amen.
While let's just take a minute or so in quietness to reflect on what Alex has said about forgiveness. And as you've thought a little bit about the question he's asked, let's take a few more minutes to think about that question. And if God is convicting any of us that we need to forgive someone, that you would offer that to God tonight. And just to put it down as a marker in your life, later on tonight, if you get a chance to come by and see Alex, will you tell him that the name of the person who you've forgiven? And I think that will be a good marker. So let's just take another minute to quietly reflect on that. Amen. So I know you have a bunch of questions that you might want to ask Alex. So we want to give you an opportunity to ask some of those questions right now, because not everyone will get a chance to talk at length with him afterward. But if you hear some of these questions, he could answer them, and they might have been your question too. So who has a question for Alex?
Any questions? Yes.
What happened to your brother and sister?
What happened to my brother and sister? My brother got an opportunity to come to the U.S. a year after I did, and my sister was too old to go into the orphanage, and so she's still back in Rwanda, and she doesn't know English, and she a lot older than I and my brother, and so she never got the opportunity to come to the U.S. But they're all safe. I get to talk to my sister at least maybe twice a month on the phone, and thank God for technology, so we're able to communicate cheaper than it was before. Yeah. Any questions? Any other questions? Could be anything, yeah.
What year did you travel with the African Children's Choir? Were you in it?
Yeah. 1 year did I travel with the African Children's Choir. I traveled the U.S. from 1998 to 2000.
Were you
So,
in St. John's, Michigan?
I believe we were. I know we were in Michigan because I remember the very first time we came to Michigan, we were in Detroit, and we went on the Ambassador Bridge. And I still have a picture from that time. Yeah, I don't remember specific towns, but I know where this area would have been around this time in the spring. Yeah. So you never know. You may have.
You came to our church.
Yeah. So I was a little boy like this, maybe.
I think you might have stayed at our house. There were 3 of you staying in the same bed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we have to talk and figure it out. Yeah, I would love to know more. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Any other questions?
What are you doing now? What occupies you? I don't even know how old you are now. But what are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you how old I am. I'm 25 years old, and I graduated from college last year, and so I was telling you how I came to the U.S. I got an opportunity to go to a Bible college, a very small Bible college in Rochester, Minnesota, and I I majored in pastoral ministry because my dream is to eventually go back to Rwanda to plant a church specifically in that village where I grew up with my grandmother. And I just feel a big part of my life is there. And right now, I've been blessed with an opportunity to do an internship with Operation Christmas Child. So graduated last year in May 4th and May 17th, I moved to Boone, North Carolina in the mountains. I had never been there and I love it there and I enjoy working with the ministry. Mostly what I get to do on a typical day is I'm connecting with the other children who receive the shoeboxes. And they are all over the country, and some of them are willing to tell their life testimonies to encourage people to pack boxes, but also I do what I'm doing sometimes. I travel to different parts of the country and just share, to give glory to God for what He's doing. So that's what I do. Yes?
Do you have any hobbies? Fishing, sports?
Do I have any hobbies, fishing or sports? In high school, I loved to run. If I could just run, give me wooded area, just give me an open area, and I would run forever. So I love to run. I enjoy it. I grew up doing so, and I tried. When I came to the U.S., I almost tried football, but when I said that to my mom, her heart sunk. So. I never did that because when I went to see a game, I saw a guy being tackled down, and I was like, that's not for me. But yeah, I love to travel. That was one of my favorite things. After traveling with the choir, I can just pick up anywhere and just go. And what else? I love to see the other nature, so I love to be in the country and explore. I'm a very exploring. So.
Remember the first food that you ate in America, or do you have a favorite food here?
Like it, and so every time, sometimes we kind of, because we were not supposed, you as a respect to the host family, because they've gone through so much trouble, so we didn't want them to go into much trouble. So if they asked us what we wanted to eat, the good question, which stands today, is what you have. And so sometimes if they offered ham, of course, if someone offers you ham to food, it's a good, good respect not to say, I don't want that. You just don't say that. You happily, thankfully receive it. Really long answer, sorry. Some more questions? Yes?
How did you get the opportunity to move to the U.S. and go to college?
How did I get the opportunity to come to the U.S. and go to college? So there's another cool story. I have many cool stories how God could work. So we go back to Rwanda in 2003. While we were in this family, host families in Minnesota in 1999, this family decided to send us pictures, and behind these pictures there was an address. So in 2003, I'm just bored out of my mind one night. I'm looking through my pictures and I saw this, the picture with an address on it behind, and I decided to write to them, just to say hello. I had just opened my email. I was really wanting to learn about computers and how they work, to the point where I was telling some people today, to the point where I could carry a Windows manual 1998 with me everywhere I went. That's how really curious I was. So I sent a letter, April 28th, 2003, I sent a letter. May 22nd, I get a reply from this family who I have not communicated with for more than 3 years. They asked me, what can we do for you and your friend to come back for education? God worked it out, that application, everything worked through, that in a matter of July 31st, we got the visas. August 31st, we were on a flight to Minneapolis. In a matter of 3 months, so from April 28th to August 31st, that's how long it took for us to get to the US. And prior, before April 28th, the only connection was when we stayed in their home in October 1999. So talk about God's amazing plan, amazing work. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I wish we could adopt you, because I would.
Yeah, she's asking, were we adopted when we were in two homes, did we just stay in homes all the time? The choir, we had a bus. So our coach bus was our home, pretty much. So we would come to a church like this one, we'd do a concert, like let's say on a Sunday, we would do a concert in the night. Then people in that church would give up. They would say, hey, I want to take 2 kids at home and host them for 2 nights. And then, so all of us would be paired differently every time. So 4 homes a week, that's 4 concerts a week. And we'd run these homes. Then they would bring, the host families would bring us back to the church, and we would park our bus, head down the road to the next church. For 2.5 years we did that. So about more than 400 homes in the 2.5 years we toured that we stayed in. Yeah. And then to kind of make that, to connect with your question, to think that out of those 400 homes, God chose that one in Minnesota. Like, I didn't even remember who they were. I just saw the picture with their kids. Yeah.
Do you stay in touch with any of the boys you toured with?
Do I stay in touch with any of the boys that I toured with? I do keep in touch with them. Pretty much, we all grew up in the orphanage, so I still keep in touch with them. And actually, the majority, all of us, but one, are back in the U.S. And the other guy is he lives with his extended family in Belgium. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, can I speak any Rwandan? I could, let me see. I would say, God bless you. Imana, iguhe umugisha. Okay, let me just say something a little bit longer. Okay. Nitwa Nsengimana, niruka mu gihugu cy'u Rwanda. Naje muri Amerika mfite imyaka 9. Imana yampaye uburyo bwo kuza muri Amerika kwiga, noneho nkaba ndi hano muri Michigan ndi kuganira nawe. So I just said, my name is Alex. I came to America when I was 9 years old with the choir, and then I came back to live here in the U.S. And now I'm here in Michigan. And I'm here to hang out with you guys. It's a hard language to learn. So very, very different. Yes.
Besides the Smarties and the candy cane, what were some of your other gifts or something that was a favorite?
Besides the candy canes, what else was my favorite in the shoebox? There were like pens and pencils and socks and underwears. Everything was my favorite in that box. But just 2 of them just stood out a little bit. And so, but it was so unique. The smells, the touch, everything was so special. It's hard to pick even a favorite in that box. Because today we encourage people to write letters to their kids. But at that time, I don't remember. I was probably blinded by the candy cane. That I didn't really know. I didn't remember if there was a letter in it. But today we encourage the people to put letters in so that the kids who get to open those boxes, they have a personal note. And I was so blessed when I went on that trip to Rwanda to deliver boxes, is that I got the opportunity to read and translate the letters. And that was my favorite moment, to see the face light up after they know, the kids knowing, this is for me, they're talking to me. So very, very special. So I pray that each and every box is an opportunity to share that gospel, or to pray over them, because God is using those boxes to answer kids' prayers. So it's such a blessing to see Him work using something very simple. So yes?
Do you still have everything in your box?
Unfortunately, do I still have everything in my box? Unfortunately not. I wish I did. The only thing I kept the longest was that hair comb that I lost it when I was in Uganda. Yeah.
When you first came to the campaign, did you have a weird expression on your face?
When I first tasted the candy cane, did I have a word, an expression on my face? My eyes were just open wide because I didn't know if it was sweet or not. And so with the plastic on it, probably didn't taste it tastes as good. But we figured, of course, there was plastic on it and we took it off. But it was quite big. Okay, to kind of make a little, make the short story long, is, you think of if you've never had a candy cane before, you never know about what peppermint is, that sensation, the coolness, it's like what I'm forgetting. There's have you seen the yolk mushrooms? That's it. That's a good expression. Yeah, it's, your hair just stands up and